Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks, Quentin. Nice to see you today. How you doing?
Absolutely. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I want to jump right into it, Dave. First and foremost, Random Dave is your YouTube channel. Can you tell us a
Yes.
little bit more about that?
About the name Random Day.
Yes.
Why did I think of Random Day? So I was sitting there and I was thinking, what name's going to suit me best for my YouTube channel? So I was thinking away and I thought, well, I can be a bit random sometimes, random with like my hobbies, my interests, random maybe with my humor. So I kind of thought, just go with Random Dave. That sounds pretty good. So, I mean, like, I've always been interested in different things and I throw myself into things like 100%. And one minute I could be interested in like a certain type of music. Like when I was young, I was interested in rave music and I wanted to be like a rave MC. And then then I wanted to be a singer. So I'd throw myself into singing. Then I wanted to be a rapper. So I threw myself into rapping. So I've had all these crazy different hobbies and sports too. So I thought, hey, I'm a little bit random, a bit of a random guy. So go with Random Dave.
Totally makes sense. And you grew up for context, you grew up in Devon, which is part of the UK. Are there other people there, Dave, who are random, who are as adventurous or free spirited as you are?
I like to think there are, yeah. I wouldn't like to think myself as too crazy or weird, but yeah, a few of my friends are probably a little bit random and into different things. But I think really I did notice that within myself that I was quite a creative person and always like when I had an interest, I tried to be the best I could be at it. To a certain, as best as I could be. So yeah, I mean, some of my friends would probably think they're a little bit random too, maybe.
Absolutely. That randomness or that creative spirit, Dave, did it follow you to university? How was that experience for you going off to college or after high school?
Well, after high school, a lot of my friends, they went on to college and then some left college, went to work or went to university. I decided to go straight into work. I wasn't interested. I didn't really like school, to be honest. Looking back, I regret certain things about that. I wish I'd studied a bit harder in certain subjects. But no, I was like, no, I'm going to work. I want to earn some money. And I ended up working for a franchise, a Land Rover franchise, the vehicles Land Rover. And I was stuck in that job like for about 22 years. I was doing that for. And that's, that kind of brings you up to the story of how I ended up in Ukraine, to be honest.
Interesting. I'd like to dive into that, but I've actually never met someone who's worked for Land Rover. I just know, expensive vehicles, top of the line in terms of quality, but what were you doing for Land Rover for 22 years?
So, I mean, I started there when I was about 17. So I started right at the bottom in this franchise chain in Devon. And at first I was literally, I was the gopher boy kind of thing. I was just helping out, putting stock away, things like that. Then I gradually moved my way out to like the serving counter. And I kind of started learning the technical aspect of the vehicles, like, all the different parts and, tiny components of the engine and things like that. And gradually I ended up as what they call a parts technician. So I'm basically identifying all these parts and, if you're a car nut, then I suppose it'd be quite a good job. I was like a bit of a car nut at times, but not enough to really enjoy the job.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Well, 22 years, that's a long time, Dave. And so I imagine there's got to be something within those 2 decades that tells you, hey, this maybe isn't my path. This isn't for me. And this is how a lot of people are introduced to you is we see you in Kyiv, Ukraine. I guess the biggest question, how did you get to Ukraine? Or why did you ultimately go to Ukraine?
So, I mean, going back at about, I don't know, what is it, 4 years now? 4 years now, I started to think that, do you know what, if I stay in this job now, here in Devon, I'm going to be here for the rest of my life. I'm like in my late 30s now. And I'm seeing a lot of other guys that have been there for like all their life. And I just thought, I don't want that life for me. I want to do something different. And initially I thought, do you know what, I'm just going to leave the job. I'm just going to leave it. I didn't have anything else to do, but I thought if I don't take this jump now while I'm feeling up for it, I'm never going to do it. So I left the job and I didn't have anything in mind necessarily what I was going to do. I just knew I wanted to get out of that job. So for about 9 months, I was kind of just like figuring out what I wanted to do. And I was even helping a mate out doing a bit of window cleaning. And anyway, I met my wife. We started chatting online and stuff. And then we met in Ukraine, in Kyiv, got chatting, got to know each other. Things went from there, really. And I thought, you know what? I feel I'm being pulled to Ukraine. I like it there. It's a different way of life. It's a new challenge. I found, as much how beautiful Devon is, and without disrespecting it, I found it a bit boring there. There wasn't much to do. It was always raining. So I felt drawn to Ukraine, you know, and obviously the main reason I'm here is because of my wife. But so that's kind of how I ended up here, really.
Certainly. I want to go a little deeper on that. And what I mean by that is, so talk to guys like Kurt Kaz or the Saluki or just, you know, other people, and they bet on themselves. And I totally get it. Like, as a young guy, like, I was fortunate enough to do some traveling, and the timing to do it wasn't necessarily perfect. It was just, I want to do this and I have to do it now. But Dave, you're not necessarily 21, 22 years old, 25 years old. So how did you develop the courage to say, not only am I going to like walk away from my comfortable job, but I'm going to essentially marry a woman who there's going to be a bit of a language barrier, and I'm also going to move to her country? Because I think that's fascinating. So what gave you, again, that courage that said, you know what, this is what I'm going to do, and it doesn't matter? Because when people get a little bit older in life, they develop habits that are hard to break. And I'd love to know how you did what you did.
I think sometimes you've just got to take a leap of faith, you know. Like I said, I'd had enough of the job, so I took that jump, and it was really, I was motivating myself by looking at the situation, by thinking, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. If I don't do it, what are the consequences? I'm stuck here for the rest of my life, pretty much. I want to do something interesting, challenging. I love to travel, you know. So it was self-motivation and just knowing that, you know, I can do this. I can do this. You know, what's the worst that could happen? You know, and I used to think, you know, you can't just rely on one job anyway. You can't just think this is my security forever, because you never know, you might get fired anyway. So self-motivation, very important. Was it a bit of a risk? Yes. Am I glad I took that risk? Absolutely.
Certainly. Well, it seems to be paying off at this juncture of the timeline. Speaking of timelines, Dave, your YouTube channel is about 10 months old. Does that coincide with when you arrived in Ukraine with Yulitka?
No, quite a bit further down the line. I'd been toying with the idea of creating a vlog for a while. Basically just to show my friends and family back home. Initially, that was kind of the idea. I thought that would be cool. Not all of them can visit me, so why not create a vlog, show them? I wasn't initially thinking of like, you know, proper YouTube channel. And then I kind of felt more motivated to do that. I saw some other vloggers online doing the same thing, and it kind of inspired me a little to do that too. And I thought, hey, why, you know, I like this. I enjoy this. I mean, I remember years ago talking about my hobbies and stuff. I used to get the old big camcorder out and film things. I remember me and my mate doing little skits and stuff. We once done like an MTV Cribs thing in our houses, like a kind of comedy skit. So I was always like creative and interested in like creating things, you know. So yeah, that's kind of how the old YouTube channel got started.
Absolutely. You kind of touched on inspirations, the least of which I suppose is Bald and Bankrupt, right? An absolute legend in the travel.
I recognize that name, yeah.
How much of a role does a guy like him, you know, with 2 million plus subscribers or 3 million, wherever he's at now, how much of an impact did he have on your YouTube dreams and aspirations?
So I remember coming across Bald and Bankrupt on one of his, he was talking about Russian grammar, and obviously learning the language myself. I came across his video somehow, and I didn't initially really pay attention to him as a traveler and as a vlogger. It was kind of that video, but I came back to it and I started binge watching the rest of his videos. And at that time, I was going for a bit of a difficult time in my life. I kind of lost quite a bit of confidence. I'm a fairly confident person. But I was walking around with my head down. I felt just a bit of it might have been that I felt a bit of an alien in a new country, felt a bit on my own in the terms of like, you know, I was alone with my own mentality, you know, English mentality, things like that. And I don't know, I just kind of lost my confidence. So I was watching his videos, and he inspired me really, because I thought, you know, there's a guy here who's traveling throughout all different types of countries, South America, Russia. And I just thought, he's going to remote places. I thought, this guy can do it, and this guy can do it on film. I thought, come on, build your confidence up a little bit, and actually getting the camera out, buying a camera, and filming myself really raised my confidence levels, because I was going from someone who didn't have much confidence just generally walking down the street to now someone that needed the confidence to hold a camera up, speak into it, and you're not like whispering either. So that really kind of raised my confidence levels up a lot, and it's really helped me to kind of build on that. So yeah, that's kind of where the inspiration came, and the situation with that, really.
Could you touch on that? Because I think that's something like that me, as someone who's not a travel vlogger, sort of takes for granted. Is I watch a lot of these guys who are just wizards with the camera. It's almost like the camera's not there, but yet it's like full frontal on your face for 30 minutes or however long the video is. How is it difficult to like kind of ignore the people you're passing by on the sidewalk, or maybe some random dog that's barking at you? Like, it's just repetition that's like, all right, now I'm at the point where this camera is just basically like, it's a part of me. Or how does that process sort of go?
Wow. So yeah, when you first start, it is, I always, like, if people ask me for tips, I say, go to your local park where it's quiet and kind of just practice at first, just with a few people around, so you kind of get used to it. But you learn how to zone out. When I first done it, I felt the kind of separation, me, camera, need to talk, and it felt very wooden. And if you look back at my old videos, I personally, I think I come across today quite amateurish. Maybe some people still think that, but quite wooden, and it's just literally practice. You have to learn to kind of just relax and just literally be yourself. But when people say be yourself on camera, that's harder than it looks, because you feel that you have to put on something. But really, ultimately, you kind of want to be your best self, as it were. So it's just practice, like anything else that you do. And eventually you kind of zone out that the camera's there, and you're kind of, like I'm chatting to you now, you kind of imagine everyone through the camera watching you, and you're kind of trying to chat to them like, yeah, you're friends. And it is a bit of it takes a bit of a knack to get used to, but I hope I'm getting there. I think I'm getting there. At times I don't feel like I am, but I think I'm getting there gradually.
I think that last sentence is key. Like, I don't know if I'm getting there, but I think I'm getting there. Like, as a writer, I often struggle with that. Like, I wonder, like, am I actually getting better? Or like, are people interested in what I'm writing? Or like, is anything any good? But it's just part of the process, I think, Dave, is like understanding, like, hey, the results or the numbers might not be where I want them to be, but if I fall in love with just doing what I want to do, like in this case, making YouTube videos, like, maybe one video you'll get 3,000 views, maybe the next you'll get 500, but you're still learning and you're still evolving. And like, if the numbers are your metric, I think you're going to struggle. But if you just enjoy the process, I think that's how
exactly
it's improve. Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a process, and it's a process you've got to enjoy. I've set myself a goal at the moment, for example, to film at least one video a week. But at the same time, I can feel myself at times, I don't feel like in the mood for filming, and I don't want to force it. I suppose you can probably relate as a creator yourself, creating, words on pages. You need inspiration. You have to feel like you want to do it, You can't force yourself. There's times where I want to film, but I just don't feel the motivation. I don't want to do it. And I think if I force myself to do that, it might come across on film. I think maybe sometimes you can get away with it, but you do have to have inspiration, motivation, and that creative flow going through. Someone once said to me, he said, creativity comes in waves. It's not a constant thing,
Mm-hmm. Certainly. No, it makes a lot of sense. Let's transition a little bit away from YouTube then, Dave. Bald and Bankrupt, a guy I've subscribed to, I've watched for years. He spends a lot of time in Russian-speaking countries, but I don't know if he's ever lived in Ukraine. So you could give this audience a bit of an idea. What's life like in Kyiv on a day-to-day basis? What's something that we might not see on a travel channel, or just something kind of interesting about the place?
Right. Okay. I'm kind of just a little bit out of Kyiv, but Obviously, I've been there lots of times. It's kind of just like any other city, really, but you've got that Soviet history there. Former Soviet states, you can see lots of examples of an architectural phenomenon that no one really expected. This phenomenon is called Soviet modernism. Wow, guys, check out this mural here. This is really awesome. You've got two hands holding on to a book here, and if I'm not mistaken, you can see here the hammer and sickle and the star. Listen, I'm thinking of buying this little number. What do you think? Suit me? No, I don't think so. I mean, it's quite a modern city. It's a very green city. When you come to a place like Ukraine for the first time, it's sight, see, smells, everything seems different. After a while, you get used to all these things. It becomes normal. Kyiv's probably one of my favorite cities in the world, I think. One of the most favorite. Quite safe. I feel quite safe in Kyiv. As in general in Ukraine, I feel quite safe. A lot safer than maybe certain places back in England, like London. Definitely. So yeah, an interesting, beautiful, vibrant city. Lots to do there. Whether it's shopping, whether it's history that you like, street entertainment, food. They've got it all. It is a cool city. Kyiv's definitely worth a visit. You know, there's lots to do there. No matter what you're interested in, there's lots to do there.
Of course. From what I understand, based on a number of videos I've seen, the wages in Ukraine are painfully low. Like people, they don't have disposable income. Maybe they don't have the benefits packages that some other countries might have. Like, is there a tension as a result of that? Like, are people less happy in Ukraine because they don't have financial security, or is financial security just something that doesn't necessarily affect them in the same way it might do someone from the UK or the United States?
No. Good question. I perceive, and I can't speak for every individual in Ukraine, stress, maybe more stress because of the maybe amount of hours they have to work, struggling to provide. Like, for example, just going away from the wages, like pensions are awful. I don't know how people live on some of the pensions. Their rent is more than the pension, so very difficult. And, Ukrainians work very hard. I mean, there are some well-paid jobs, but they're not going to be like common jobs that the average Joe is going to do or whatever. So yeah, a lot of stress, I think, and a lot of hard work. That seems to be the impression I get. They're quite frugal with their money too, in saving money. I mean, I'm like the kind of person that if I've had a long day, it's like, I don't want to go back on the bus, cramped on the bus. Let's just get a taxi. It's only like, I don't know, 50 hryvnias, which like in, I don't know, what's that in like, in US dollars, that's probably a couple dollars. Let's say a couple dollars, nothing, throw it away. Ideal, excellent. Whereas, oh no, that's expensive, because the bus is like, say 8 hryvnias, there's quite a bit of saving there to them. So you can see that kind of different mentality towards money and in relative to their wages as well, I suppose.
Of course, makes sense. So before we started, I told you I lived in China for a year teaching English. As is wont to happen, I went on a few dates with some of the local women, and I can say based off that experience, some of the Chinese men don't necessarily appreciate that. And I kind of understand it. It's like, oh, you're coming to our country, and Chinese women, for context, are extremely attractive. So the stereotype is Russian, Ukrainian women are also very attractive. Like, you're married to a Ukrainian woman, Dave. Do you get those sort of looks or those stares or even those, like, I don't know, someone like saying something to you because it's like you're married to, it's what seems like a very lovely Ukrainian woman?
No, thank you. No, I don't think I've ever had any animosity like that. Ukrainian people are very genuine, very honest, very, very warm people. Initially, there might be kind of a barrier there, kind of a contradiction, really, because initially you might think some Ukrainian people are quite tough, which they are in a certain aspect, but once you get to know them and become their friends, they're quite warm. I've never had anything like that. No, I don't think Ukrainian men are like that. No, I don't think they are. So no, never had an experience like that, to be honest. The only thing that I feel is I feel different. I feel like the alien sometimes, you know. And that is difficult sometimes. I think that's what knocked my confidence a little bit, which was a bit weird because I'm used to traveling, but I think living somewhere is totally different. When you've got a different mentality too, you do feel like you stand out. You know, you hear of like the alien resident. You do generally feel a bit like an alien sometimes. That's difficult. You feel like you stand out. Sometimes you want to blend in. So that's the only thing for me that I've noticed. It's more within me, more about myself than others.
That's interesting. I kind of had, I don't know if I felt that same way when I was in China, for example, but I always felt that no matter like what happened during the day, I was going to go back to my apartment, insulate myself, and it was going to feel like I was just back at home in the United States. Like, is your apartment sort of that safe haven for you where you sort of forget you're in Ukraine for a second?
Yeah, it is. I guess so. Yeah, I'm a bit of a home. I like my home comforts and that anyway, to be honest. So I've always been like that, even back in England. It's kind of like my safe haven. But yeah, you know, and I think nowadays as well, having access, you know, on your devices to like, you know, if I want to watch English TV, English movies, no problem. That kind of takes you back. You know, if you want a bit of English humor, for example, now I just switch on YouTube, whatever, find something. So I think that helps as well if you want to take your mind off those things. But no, I mean, I'm better now. It's feeling more like home. I think once you initially get over that kind of feeling, you start to feel a little bit more settled. Now, I think you're always going to have that feeling that you're different because you are. It's a fact. You're never going to feel 100% like, you know, your native country. You're just never going to feel like it. But you do learn to cope with it, deal with it, and ultimately, how to say, process it in the right way, as it were.
Of course. Let's look 5 years into the future, Dave. Are you still improving upon your self-described intermediate Russian and living in Ukraine with Yulichka? Are you, I don't know, broadening your YouTube channel and visiting other Eastern European countries? Or have you thought about maybe the direction you want to go? Or is life pretty good right now and you'd like to sustain this?
I think I definitely would like to travel more. I think, you know, me and Yulichka would love to travel to other countries. I'd love to vlog a few other countries as well. That would be really cool. That's definitely on the list of something to do. What else? I think staying in Ukraine for now. Yeah, I think that's also okay. 5 years from now, what else are we doing? I mean, with my Russian, I'm a little bit lazy. I've got to admit, Quentin, I'm a little bit lazy when it comes to learning languages. I go through tiny little spurts. I set myself goals and I don't reach them. I was more enthusiastic about learning it when I was back in the UK. Now I'm here. It's weird. Now, I don't know, maybe because it's all around me all the time. I'm not so focused on learning. But yeah, I do need to upgrade so I can speak better. I mean, I know a few Ukrainian words as well. I think it's important to try and use the Ukrainian as well. But yeah, need to give myself a kick up the backside when it comes to learning the language.
Certainly. Well, I'll endorse Duolingo, not a paid sponsorship, by the way, but
okay.
I put 10, 15 minutes in a day on that, and my Spanish seems to gradually progress, you know, along with taking like lessons on italki, but it's
okay.
Fun. So my last question for you, Dave, is a tip or a word of advice for somebody who, no matter what they're doing in life, they don't want to be doing that anymore and they want to do something else, not necessarily like move to a foreign country and marry like a local woman, but they just want to either transition careers or they want to ask out that cute chick from Burger King. I don't know. You could kind of insert whatever, but how do they break out of that shell or that dormancy and just do something different? What's your word of advice?
Wow. I think have faith and take that jump. To be honest, you've got to take that jump. If you want something bad enough, you have to go for it. Don't fear the future. Don't fear the future too much. Otherwise you'll get stuck in a rut. You'll never get out of it. The longer time passes by, the more likely it'll be more difficult to get out of it. So So, weigh up the pros and cons as well. Of course, don't just jump immediately, but you do have to take a leap of faith. You do.
Absolutely. I think that's such a critical thing in life. Bet on yourself. That's what I always say. So
absolutely.
Dave. Well, I appreciate your time this morning or this afternoon. It's been absolutely
more than welcome.